The most dangerous moment in your life isn't when you're falling apart. It's when everything is finally still. Because that stillness isn't peace. It's a velvet coffin your soul has been slowly zipped into, while you called it security. Right now, if you feel a quiet dread underneath the surface of a perfectly comfortable life, that's not depression, that's not anxiety, that's your unlived self screaming from inside a fortress you built to keep pain out, not realizing you locked the fire of your own becoming in with you. And Carl Jung gave us the diagnosis decades ago. The psyche knows exactly what it costs to stay comfortable, and it will make you pay in meaning what you refuse to pay in friction. By the end of this video, you will see your comfort not as a sanctuary, but as the architect of your slowest death, and you'll have the map to walk out of that cage before the door locks permanently. This isn't about motivation. It's about a psychological law that operates whether you believe in it or not. Jung called it individuation, the lifelong process of becoming who you were meant to be beneath all the conditioning, the fear, and the laziness of the ego. And here is the brutal truth most personal development content won't tell you. Individuation requires destruction. Not the destruction of your life, but the destruction of the false temple you've built to the god of safety. And safety, when made into an idol, becomes the enemy of the soul. So let me ask you something before we go deeper. If you had a guarantee that every single thing you're afraid to lose, your job, your relationship, your reputation, your carefully curated identity, would actually be the very things keeping you from the version of yourself that could handle anything, would you still cling to them? That question is the doorway. And most people never even find the doorway because they're too busy soundproofing their cage to hear the knocking. Phase 1. The anatomy of the golden coffin. We live in an age that has perfected the illusion of the safe life. Food appears at your door with 2 taps. Conflict can be avoided by scrolling past it. Relationships can be mediated through screens, so you never have to face the raw terror of being truly seen. Remote work has made it possible to earn a living without ever leaving the room your bed is in. On the surface, this looks like freedom. But Jung would call it something else. The mass sedation of the psyche. Think about what happens to a muscle that's never loaded with weight. It doesn't stay neutral, it atrophies. The same law governs the psyche. When your life is engineered to eliminate all resistance, your psychological immune system collapses. You don't become peaceful, you become fragile. You don't become content, you become numb. And numbness, left long enough, mimics clinical depression so accurately that even therapists sometimes miss the root cause. You're not chemically broken. You're existentially starved. Here's a metaphor you won't hear elsewhere. Imagine a wolf born in a climate-controlled enclosure. It's fed premium meat on schedule. No predators, no territorial battles, no winter starvation. By every biological metric, this wolf is the luckiest wolf in history. But if you look into its eyes, there's a vacancy, a flatness. That wolf has never had to become a wolf. And deep in its something knows this. The enclosure isn't a home, it's a display case. You, sitting in your apartment with your delivery apps, and your noise-canceling headphones, and your carefully managed calendar with 0 unstructured risk. You are that wolf. The golden cage isn't made of bars you can see. It's made of the absence of the unknown. Jung said something that could be stitched into the fabric of modern life. The greatest and most important problems of life are all fundamentally insoluble. They must be so, for they express the necessary polarity inherent in every self-regulating system. They can never be solved, but only outgrown. And here's where the modern comfort trap springs. We have tried to solve the problem of suffering by eliminating it, and in doing so, we have eliminated the engine of growth itself. You cannot outgrow a problem if you never let the problem get close enough to challenge you. This is why you can have an objectively good life and still feel like you're dying inside. The psyche doesn't run on comfort, it runs on tension. The tension between who you are and who you sense you could be. When that tension disappears because you've made your world too small to contain a challenge, the psyche doesn't celebrate. It mourns, and that mourning feels like a hollow ache in the chest that no amount of scrolling, streaming, or consuming will ever fill. Phase 2. The biological lie versus the spiritual imperative. Your body is designed for homeostasis, the maintenance of a stable internal environment. Your blood pH, your temperature, your hormone levels all regulated within narrow bands, because biological life depends on predictability. So it's natural that your nervous system interprets stability as safety and change as threat. But here's the split. Your soul, your psyche, the part of you Jung would call the self, does not seek homeostasis. It seeks expansion. It seeks the tension of becoming. And these two drives are fundamentally incompatible. So every morning, you wake up inside a civil war. The biological animal wants the familiar, the warm, the predictable. The soul wants the edge, the unknown, the territory that has not yet been mapped. When you repeatedly side with the animal, choosing the comfortable job, the safe relationship, the routine that asks nothing of you, you are essentially putting your soul on a starvation diet. And a starved soul doesn't just sit quietly. It starts to scream in the language of symptoms. Anxiety without cause, exhaustion that sleep won't fix, a nagging sense that your real life hasn't even started yet, while you're already 30, 40, 50 years into this one. Let me give you an example from my own observation. A man I knew spent 15 years in a corporate job that paid well and demanded nothing of his deeper intelligence. He had engineered a life of profound comfort house in the suburbs, predictable promotions, weekends of curated leisure. By 45, he had developed a cluster of physical ailments that doctors couldn't diagnose. Migraines, digestive collapse, a kind of whole-body inflammation. He tried every elimination diet, every supplement protocol. Nothing worked, until a Jungian analyst asked him one question: when was the last time you did something that genuinely terrified you? He couldn't remember. The body, it turns out, will somatize the soul's rebellion. It will light itself on fire to get your attention when you refuse to let the psyche burn with its necessary transformation. This is not mysticism, it's the observable consequence of a life that has traded friction for safety. Your comfort isn't just boring your mind, it's inflaming your cells. Now contrast this with Jung's own life. In 1913, after his break with Freud, Jung entered a period of profound psychological disorientation. He voluntarily descended into what he called his confrontation with the unconscious. For years, he allowed visions, dreams, and terrifying inner figures to flood his waking life. He played like a child with building blocks. He drew mandalas. He spoke to phantoms. This looked like psychosis from the outside, but he understood something. The psyche does not heal through comfort. It heals through the willing endurance of chaos. That voluntary descent, not waiting until a nervous breakdown forced him into it, is what produced the entire framework of analytical psychology. The Red Book, which he wrote during those years, wasn't a journal of a man losing his mind. It was the record of a man losing his false self, so his soul could finally breathe. So the question hanging over your head right now is this: are you going to wait until life forces the descent? until the diagnosis, the divorce, the bankruptcy does it for you? Or will you become one of the rare people who says yes to the fire before the fire decides for you? Phase 3. The shadow of convenience, and the atrophy of the self. Jung's concept of the shadow is usually discussed in terms of repressed anger, hidden sexual desires, the parts of ourselves we consider unacceptable. But there's a shadow of modern life that almost nobody talks about, the shadow of convenience. The dark side of getting everything you want without effort. Every time you avoid a difficult conversation, a fragment of your ability to speak truth detaches and goes underground. Every time you choose the algorithm's suggestion over your own curiosity, a slice of your agency is amputated. Every time you numb the boredom with a dopamine hit, instead of sitting in the empty space where creativity is born, you trade a future masterpiece for a present distraction. The shadow of convenience is that it accumulates in the unconscious as a debt, and the debt collectors are existential dread, a fragmented sense of identity, and the creeping horror that you're becoming a spectator in your own existence. What does the atrophied individuation process look like in real life? It looks like a person who can list 100 preferences, but has no idea what they actually value. It looks like a person who has strong opinions about other people's lives, but collapses into panic when asked what they themselves truly want. It looks like a person who can navigate any app interface, but cannot navigate an hour of solitude without reaching for a screen. The self hasn't been killed, it's been undeveloped, like a photograph never exposed to light. And in 2026, this condition has reached a kind of terminal stage. We have more choices than any generation in history. What to eat, where to travel, who to date, what identity to wear, and yet the soul feels more claustrophobic than ever. The paradox is precise. Every new option adds another possible version of yourself you're not living. In a world of 3 choices, you can make peace with your path. In a world of 3 million choices, every path becomes haunted by the ghosts of the roads not taken. Comfort without commitment is not freedom. It's a dispersal of the self across infinite potentialities, until you're so spread thin you become transparent. You feel crowded not by people, but by the unlived versions of you. Phase 4. Holy friction, and the alchemy of voluntary chaos. There is a principle I want you to adopt right now, and it will feel counterintuitive to every self-protective instinct you have. Growth is not found beyond discomfort. Growth is discomfort. The friction is not the obstacle to the transformation. The friction is the transformation itself. I call this holy friction. Holy friction is the deliberate, chosen encounter with the edge of your current capacity. It's not about being reckless, it's about being intentional. It's the difference between taking a sledgehammer to your life because you're angry and carving a new door because you're awake. Holy friction can be physical, the cold plunge, the fast, the pilgrimage on foot. It can be psychological, speaking the truth you've been swallowing for years, sitting with the grief you've been outrunning, ending the relationship that's comfortable but dead. It can be creative, starting the project that terrifies you because failure is public and likely. The form matters less than the function. Holy friction burns away the ego's superficial attachments to reveal what's non-negotiable beneath. Jung practiced what he called active imagination, a technique of deliberately engaging with unconscious material while fully awake. He would sit in a chair and let inner figures arise, a wise old man, a serpent, a child, and he would converse with them. This is the opposite of zoning out with entertainment. It's zoning in with the chaos of the deep psyche. He was generating holy friction. He was prying open the door the comfortable ego keeps locked, not because what's behind it is evil, but because what's behind it is more real than the ego can handle without transformation. Now let's talk about your brain on the edge. When you voluntarily place yourself in a situation of high-stakes uncertainty, public speaking, starting a business, having the conversation that could end everything, your brain enters a state of heightened neuroplasticity. The old neural pathways that kept you safe but small are destabilized, and new connections become possible. This is the neurological corollary to Jung's individuation. The brain doesn't just tolerate uncertainty. When you step into it willingly, it uses uncertainty as the raw material for upgrading your entire operating system. You literally become more adaptable, more resilient, more capable of holding complexity without fracturing. The crucial word here is voluntarily. If chaos is forced on you, the brain can become traumatized. If chaos is chosen, the same neurological machinery builds anti-fragility. This is the difference between the soldier who develops PTSD and the firefighter who thrives on the same levels of stress. One was a victim of chaos, the other a participant in it. When you design your own friction, you're not breaking yourself. You're forging a nervous system that can hold more of reality without needing the anesthetic of comfort. So the practical question emerges: what is one area of your life right now where you've been waiting for circumstances to push you? And what would happen if you pushed yourself first? Phase 5. Dismantling the defensive structures. The ego is not your enemy. The ego is a necessary interface between the unconscious and the outer world. But the ego, left unchecked, becomes a fortress architect. It builds walls and calls them values. It installs routines and calls them discipline. It avoids the unknown and calls it wisdom. And all the while, the soul inside that fortress is pacing in a cell 3 feet wide. The first defensive structure is the narrative of the past. I am this way because of what happened to me. And yes, what happened to you was real, and the wound deserves honor. But at some point, the story of the wound becomes a comfortable cage. It's safe to be the person who was hurt. It's terrifying to be the person who heals and then has to face the world without the identity of the victim. Jung would say, your wound is the doorway, not the destination. If you're still living in the doorway 20 years later, you're not honoring your past. You're avoiding your future. The second structure is the identity you've constructed to be acceptable. The good employee, the selfless parent, the one who never causes conflict, the one who has it all figured out. This persona, to use Jung's term, is a mask. And a mask worn too long fuses to the face. The tragedy is not that you're pretending. The tragedy is that you forget you're pretending. You start to believe you are the mask, and the vast wilderness of your actual self becomes an intruder you medicate away with busyness and achievement. Dismantling this structure requires the terrifying act of showing someone who you really are beneath the performance. Not the polished, vulnerable version you share on social media, the ragged, uncertain, contradictory version that doesn't fit a narrative. The third structure is the addiction to the known outcome. You only take steps you can control. You only love where you're guaranteed a return. You only invest in paths with a visible destination. This is rational from the ego's perspective, loss prevention. But the soul doesn't speak the language of spreadsheets. The soul speaks the language of leaps. And every leap you refuse to take, the soul logs as a betrayal, and it collects interest. When you start to dismantle these structures, you will meet internal resistance that feels like a physical force. Procrastination that looks like laziness but is actually terror. A sudden, inexplicable exhaustion the moment before you do the brave thing. A voice that says, You're being selfish. You're going to lose everything. Who do you think you are? This is not a sign to stop. This is the immune response of the old self trying to survive. The ego doesn't care if you're happy. It cares if you're continuous. And continuity without transformation is just a longer death. Here's a practice. This week, identify one area where you've been responsible to the point of suffocation. One domain where you've been so careful that your soul has stopped breathing. And then do one thing that the careful version of you would call reckless. Not destructive reckless in the direction of aliveness. Say the thing. Book the ticket. End the chapter. Walk into the unknown with your heart pounding and your eyes open. That pounding is not danger. It's the sound of your soul finally being given a voice. Phase 6. Liberating the latent self, the version of yourself that exists beyond the boundary of your current securities, is not a fantasy. It's a living potential that is only waiting for the conditions of sufficient tension to emerge. Think of it as a dormant seed. The seed doesn't need motivation. It needs the right fire, the right pressure, the right breaking of its outer shell. And you are both the seed and the gardener, and the shell you must break is the shell of everything you've been told is safe. Jung described the self with a capital S, the totality of the personality. The archetype of wholeness, not as something you build, but as something you uncover. It's already there, behind the persona, beneath the shadow, beyond the ego's petty kingdom. The process of individuation is simply the process of removing what is in the way. And what is in the way, most of the time, is the life you've settled for so you wouldn't have to risk the life you were born for. The new definition of security is not the absence of threat, it's the presence of internal mastery. The person who knows they can navigate any environment, poverty, loneliness, public failure, the total collapse of their plans, has a security that can never be taken away, because it's not dependent on conditions. This is the security of the depths, and it's forged exclusively in the voluntary descent. You cannot download it, you cannot affirm it into existence, you cannot manifest it while sitting on a cushion visualizing abundance. You must walk into the desert figurative, or literal, and discover, by surviving, that you can survive. Then the desert becomes not a place to fear, but a teacher you've befriended. The latent talents that only emerge under pressure are not a myth. There are versions of your intelligence, your courage, your creativity, your capacity for love that have never been called forward because you've never been in a situation where they were required. Your comfort has functioned as a ceiling, and the ceiling, painted with stars, looks like a sky until you realize it's drywall. So here is the actionable philosophy I offer you, not as a one-time challenge, but as a sacred ritual for continuous evolution. Every single day, do one thing that makes you feel slightly unsafe. Not dangerously unsafe, intelligently unsafe. Physically, cold exposure, a long walk without a phone, a fast. Psychologically, speak a hard truth. Sit with a difficult emotion without reaching for a distraction. Say no to something that drains you even if it disappoints someone. Creatively, publish the thing. Send the pitch. Start the project that might fail publicly. Spiritually, sit in silence and ask the uncomfortable question, if I died in a year, what would I regret not having done? And then do something about the answer. The ritual is not about the specific action. It's about the daily renegotiation of your relationship with fear. It's about teaching your nervous system that uncertainty is not a signal to retreat, but a signal to pay attention. Over time, this practice builds what can only be called a soul that is stronger than its circumstances, a soul that doesn't need the golden cage, because it has become too large to fit inside any cage. That is the price of comfort reversed. When you stop paying the price of your life for the illusion of safety, the debt is canceled, and you discover that the security you were protecting was never worth the self you were burying. The door has always been open. The cage has never been locked from the outside. You just couldn't see the door because the comfort was so warm, so familiar, so easy to mistake for home. But home is not where the soul stops growing. Home is where the soul is free to become. If something in you shifted during this video, if you felt that quiet, terrifying pull toward a life you've been avoiding that's not anxiety, that's the beginning of individuation. Don't numb it. Don't schedule over it. Don't tell yourself you'll deal with it later. Sit with it. Let it breathe. And then, tomorrow, take one step into the unknown. Not because it's safe, but because you finally realize that safety, the way you've been practicing it, was never safety at all. It was a slow disappearance. And you came here to appear. The fire doesn't care about your comfort, but it does care about